You have exactly 60 seconds to tell me why you just sent me that message. The text appeared on Emma Brooks' cracked phone at 11:47 p.m., and for one frozen second, she forgot how to breathe. 10 minutes earlier, Emma, a 29-year-old plus-size waitress working the closing shift at Bellini's Steakhouse in downtown Chicago, had hidden in the supply closet after her manager humiliated her in front of a dining room full of wealthy guests. He had blamed her for a spilled bottle of wine she never touched, laughed when her uniform pulled tightly across her curves, and told her that women like her should be grateful anyone hired them. Exhausted, embarrassed, and 3 weeks behind on rent, Emma had typed a furious message meant for her cruel ex-boyfriend, Derek. "Fuck you. I am done letting men like you make me feel small." But one wrong digit had sent it to a stranger. Now that stranger was calling. Emma stared at the unknown number while the phone vibrated against her palm. She almost rejected it, but something stubborn inside her made her answer. "Listen, I'm sorry," she whispered. "That message wasn't meant for you." Silence filled the line, followed by a man's calm, deep voice. "Men like me?" he asked. Emma closed her eyes. "It was supposed to go to someone who deserved it. And you believe I don't?" The question was quiet, but it carried the kind of control that made her stand straighter. "I don't know you," she said. "Then perhaps you should." Before Emma could respond, the call ended. Across the city, Luca Moretti stood before a wall of rain-darkened windows in the penthouse office of the Moretti Grand Hotel. At 36, Luca was one of the richest men in Chicago and the feared head of the Moretti crime family, a man whose name could silence businessmen, politicians, and criminals with equal speed. He wore a black suit without a tie, his expression cold as two armed men waited for permission to speak. Luca had spent years trusting no one after his younger brother was betrayed and killed by someone inside their organization. He rarely laughed, never forgave, and had no patience for mistakes. Yet instead of deleting Emma's message, he read it again. Not because of the insult, but because of the sentence beneath it. "I am done letting men like you make me feel small." "Trace the number," he ordered. His advisor, Vincent Hale, hesitated. "Was it a threat?" Luca looked at the rain. "No, find out who taught her to apologize for taking up space." Back at Bellini's, Emma stepped out of the supply closet and nearly collided with her manager, Calvin Ross. "There you are," Calvin snapped. "Table 12 says you were rude. Take your things and leave." Emma's stomach dropped. "I wasn't even serving table 12. Doesn't matter. They spend more in one night than you make in a month." Several servers watched, some uncomfortable, others amused. Emma felt the familiar heat crawl up her neck, but this time she did not lower her eyes. "Then show me the complaint." Calvin's face hardened. "You're fired." Thunder shook the windows. Emma removed her apron with trembling hands, fighting tears because she refused to give him the satisfaction of watching her break. Then the restaurant's front doors opened. Every conversation stopped. 3 men in dark coats entered first, scanning the room. Behind them walked Luca Moretti. Emma had never seen him before, but she recognized power when the room bent around it. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and terrifyingly composed, his gaze moving past the chandeliers and frightened staff until it landed directly on her. Calvin rushed forward with a nervous smile. "Mr. Moretti, we weren't expecting you." Luca ignored him. He crossed the marble floor toward Emma, stopping only a few feet away. His eyes dropped briefly to the phone still clutched in her hand. "Emma Brooks?" Her pulse stumbled. "Yes? You sent me a message." The color drained from her face. Around them, whispers spread. Calvin stared at her as if she had just pulled a fire alarm. Emma swallowed. "I already apologized." Luca's expression did not change, but his voice softened by one careful degree. "That is the problem." He turned toward the room. "She apologized for a message sent by accident. Which one of you will apologize for humiliating her on purpose?" No one answered. Calvin forced a laugh. "Sir, this is an internal matter." Luca looked at him, and the laugh died instantly. Not anymore. He reached for Emma's coat from the chair beside her, held it open without touching her, and waited until she chose to put it on. The gesture was small, respectful, and so unexpected that her eyes burned. Then Luca noticed the red marks circling her wrist, fingerprints left by Calvin when he had dragged her into the hallway earlier. His face became dangerously still. "Who did that?" Emma pulled her sleeve down. It's nothing. Luca stepped closer, keeping enough distance that she never felt trapped. Nothing does not leave bruises. Calvin backed away, but Luca had already seen him move. "Vincent," he said without turning, "lock the doors." The heavy entrance clicked shut. Emma stared at the stranger she had insulted, unaware that her accidental message had reached the most dangerous man in Chicago. Then Luca's phone buzzed. He read the new text, and for the first time that night, his control cracked. It contained a photograph of Emma leaving her apartment that morning and 6 words beneath it. "The girl is leverage. Bring her alone." Luca turned the phone face down before Emma could read the message, but she saw the change in him, the sudden stillness of a man who had just discovered danger standing closer than expected. "Open the doors," she said, glancing at the armed men. "I don't know what this is, but I'm not staying locked inside a restaurant with strangers." Vincent looked offended by her tone, but Luca raised one hand. The doors unlocked immediately. "You're free to leave," Luca said. "But someone photographed you outside your apartment this morning, and they just sent the picture to me." Emma's courage faltered. "Why would anyone send you a picture of me?" "That is what I intend to learn." Calvin moved toward the office hallway, pretending to check something behind the bar. Luca noticed. "Mr. Ross," he said calmly. Calvin stopped. "Where are you going?" "To call the owner." "You already did." Luca nodded toward Vincent, who held up a tablet displaying the restaurant's security records. 6 minutes ago, you deleted footage from the service corridor." Calvin's face went pale. Emma looked between them. "What footage?" Vincent tapped the screen, and a recovered video began playing on the restaurant's largest wall monitor. The room watched Calvin corner Emma near the kitchen, grip her wrist, and threaten to ruin every job reference she had if she challenged him. Emma's humiliation became public in a way she had never wanted, but before she could shrink into herself, Luca stepped between her and the screen, blocking the room's view of her face. "Turn it off," he ordered. Vincent obeyed. Luca did not ask Emma why she had tolerated it, or why she had not fought harder. He simply faced Calvin. "You put your hands on an employee, destroyed evidence, and lied in front of witnesses." Calvin forced himself to smile. "She's dramatic. Women like her always want attention." Luca's expression became colder. "Use her name." "What?" "Her name is Emma Brooks. You will use it with respect." The dining room went silent. Calvin looked toward the other guests as if someone might defend him, but no one dared. Luca removed his phone and made one call. "Cancel the acquisition," he said. "Bellini's is no longer part of the Moretti hospitality deal." Calvin stared at him. "You would destroy a multi-million-dollar agreement over a waitress?" Luca ended the call. "No, I destroyed it over a man who believed cruelty made him important." Emma should have felt relieved, yet fear tightened her chest. "You can't burn down a business because of me." Luca looked at her. "I did not do it because of you. I did it because he showed me what kind of business it was." The distinction mattered. He was not treating her like a helpless woman he had rescued. He was treating Calvin's behavior like a failure of character that deserved consequences. Police officers arrived minutes later after Vincent provided the footage and statements from 2 employees who finally admitted Calvin had threatened them too. Luca never ordered Emma to press charges. He stood beside her and let her decide. "I want the report filed," she said, her voice shaking but clear. Calvin was escorted outside into the rain, still insisting he had done nothing wrong. When the room emptied, Emma leaned against a table, exhausted. "Does this happen every time someone texts you an insult?" she asked. Luca's mouth moved slightly, almost a smile. "Usually they do not survive long enough to apologize." Emma stared at him. Vincent coughed into his fist, hiding his amusement. Luca added, "That was a joke. You should warn people before you make those." He studied her as if no one had spoken to him that way in years. "You are not afraid of me." "I'm terrified of you," Emma admitted. "I'm just too tired to pretend you're charming." This time Luca actually smiled, brief and unexpected, softening the hard lines of his face. Then Emma noticed a waiter approaching with a silver tray. The restaurant had closed and every employee had been dismissed, yet the man kept his head lowered as he carried 2 glasses of water toward them. Something about his shoes caught her attention. They were dry. Everyone entering from the storm had tracked rain across the marble floor. This man had not come through the front entrance. "Luca," she said quietly. It was the first time she had used his name. He turned toward her. The waiter reached inside his jacket. Emma grabbed Luca's arm and pulled with all her strength. A glass shattered as Vincent tackled the stranger against a table. A small blade clattered across the floor, its edge coated with a clear liquid. Luca's guards surrounded the attacker, but Luca looked only at Emma. Her hand was still wrapped around his sleeve. She released him quickly. "I saw his shoes," she explained. They were dry. Luca glanced at the weapon, then back at her. "You just saved my life. Maybe now we're even. Not even close." The attacker began laughing from the floor. "She has no idea, does she?" Emma froze. Luca stepped in front of her. "No idea about what?" The man lifted his head, blood at the corner of his mouth. "Ask her why her ex-boyfriend has been selling Moretti secrets for the last 6 months." Emma's face lost all colour. "Derek." Luca turned slowly toward her, suspicion returning to his eyes. Before she could answer, every light in the restaurant went out, and somewhere in the darkness, Emma's phone began ringing. The darkness lasted less than 3 seconds, but it was long enough for Luca to pull Emma behind him and draw a pistol from beneath his jacket. Emergency lights flooded the restaurant in dim red, revealing Vincent restraining the attacker while 2 guards searched the exits. Emma's phone continued ringing on the floor. Luca picked it up, glanced at the screen, and saw Derek's name. "Do not answer," he said. "That is my phone," Emma replied, holding out her hand. "And Derek is my problem." Luca's jaw tightened, but he returned it. He did not control her choice. Emma accepted the call and switched on the speaker. "Emma, listen carefully," Derek said, his voice breathless. "The man standing beside you is not who you think he is." She looked at Luca's weapon, then at the guards surrounding the room. "I know exactly who he is." Silence followed. Then Derek whispered, "You need to leave before he finds out what you stole." Emma's confusion was immediate. "I didn't steal anything." "Check the lining of your old blue coat." The call ended. Emma slowly looked down at the black coat Luca had placed around her shoulders. "My blue coat is at my apartment." Vincent stepped closer. "This could be a trap." "It is a trap," Luca said. "The question is who they expect to catch." The attacker on the floor began laughing again. "You are already too late." Before anyone could question him, the restaurant's fire alarm erupted. Sprinklers burst from the ceiling, sending cold water over the tables and washing the clear liquid from the fallen blade across the marble. Luca immediately guided Emma away from it, one hand hovering near her back without forcing her forward. "Stay close to me." "Someone just tried to kill you," she said. "Why are you protecting me?" His eyes met hers beneath the flashing red lights. "Because the message called you leverage." That does not mean you know me." "No," he said quietly, "but I know what men like Derek do to people they believe no one will defend." The words struck deeper than Emma expected. Luca ordered Vincent to secure the attacker and retrieve the security drives, then escorted Emma through the kitchen to an armoured SUV waiting in the alley. Rain hammered the roof as they drove toward her apartment on the south side. Emma sat across from Luca, her soaked uniform clinging uncomfortably to her curves. She folded her arms, trying to disappear, but Luca removed his suit jacket and placed it beside her instead of draping it over her without permission. "For warmth," he said, "not because there is anything wrong with what you are wearing." Emma looked at him, surprised by how easily he had recognized the shame she was trying to hide. She accepted the jacket. "Derek used to say I took up too much space." Luca's expression hardened. Then he should have learned to stand farther away. 20 minutes later, the SUV stopped outside Emma's brick apartment building. Her front door was open. Inside, drawers had been emptied, furniture overturned, and photographs ripped from the walls. Emma rushed toward the bedroom, but Luca caught her wrist gently before she crossed the threshold. "Let my men clear it," she pulled free. "That blue coat belonged to my mother. I'm not waiting." Luca studied her face, then nodded and entered first. The coat hung untouched inside the closet. Emma reached into its torn lining and pulled out a small black flash drive she had never seen before. Derek must have hidden it when he lived here. Vincent inserted it into a secure tablet. Files filled the screen, including shipment records, bank transfers, and photographs of Moretti meeting locations. At the bottom was a folder labelled Emma Brooks. Inside were copies of her lease, work schedule, medical records, and pictures taken without her knowledge. Emma's hands began to shake. He was watching me. Luca moved closer but stopped before touching her. "You are safe now." "No, I'm not," she pointed at the screen. "My name is on those transfers." Vincent opened one record. It showed nearly $2 million moved through an account registered to Emma. "I have $43 in my checking account," she said. Luca's face revealed nothing, yet his men shifted uneasily. The evidence made Emma look like Derek's partner. "You believe me, don't you?" she asked. Luca looked at the documents, then at her frightened eyes. His entire empire had been built on suspicion, and betrayal had already cost him a brother. "I believe the woman who noticed dry shoes while trained men saw nothing," he said. "But someone created this evidence for a reason." Headlights swept across the bedroom wall. 3 black vehicles stopped outside. Vincent checked the street camera and cursed under his breath. "Chicago police, organized crime unit." A loudspeaker ordered everyone inside to surrender. Emma stared at Luca. "They are here for you." "No," Vincent said, reading an intercepted warrant on his phone. "They are here for her." Officers surrounded the building as Emma's picture appeared on the tablet beside charges of money laundering and conspiracy. Then a message arrived from Derek containing a live photograph of him standing beside a silver-haired man Luca recognized immediately. Salvatore Rizzo, the rival who had ordered his brother's death. Beneath the photograph were 9 words. "Give us Luca Moretti, or Emma Brooks goes to prison." "Do not surrender," Emma said, surprising every man in the room, including Luca. Outside, red and blue lights flashed across the rain-soaked windows, while the loudspeaker repeated her name and ordered her to come out with her hands visible. Luca studied her carefully. "They have a warrant." Emma looked at the document on Vincent's phone again. Fear still trembled in her hands, but something in the digital signature caught her attention. "The warrant says it was approved at 10:15 tonight." "So?" Vincent asked. "At 10:15, Derek's flash drive was still hidden inside my coat. No one knew it existed, yet the warrant lists files taken from it as evidence." Luca's gaze sharpened. Emma continued, "Those aren't real officers, or someone inside the department prepared this before they planted the drive." A bullet shattered the living room window. Luca pulled Emma down and covered her with his body as glass rained across the floor. His guards returned fire toward the empty vehicles below, but no police sirens responded. The men outside were not there to arrest anyone. They were there to kill Emma and recover the drive. "Backstairs," Luca ordered. Smoke began pouring beneath the apartment door as the attackers set the hallway on fire. Vincent led the guards toward the rear exit while Luca stayed beside Emma, shielding her from falling debris. She stopped at the bedroom doorway and looked back at the blue coat. Flames were already climbing the wall beside it. "My mother's coat." "Emma, we have seconds. It is all I have left of her." Luca crossed the room without hesitation, pulled the coat from the closet and wrapped it around her shoulders. Heat scorched his hand, but he did not react. "Now you still have it. Move." They escaped down the metal fire stairs as the apartment windows exploded behind them. In the alley, Luca guided Emma into another armored SUV. He kept his burned hand hidden until she noticed blood along his knuckles. "You went back for a coat," she whispered. "I went back for something you loved." The answer silenced her. At the Moretti Grand Hotel, Luca took Emma to a private security room 40 floors above the city. Warm golden lights replaced the red emergency glow, but she still stood near the door, unsure whether she was a guest or a prisoner. Luca noticed and placed the key card on the table between them. "The elevator is unlocked. You may leave whenever you choose." Emma looked at the storm beyond the windows. "And be shot before I reach the lobby? Then stay because it is your decision, not because I ordered it." For the first time that night, her shoulders lowered. Vincent connected the flash drive to an isolated computer. Most files were protected, but one responded when Emma placed the blue coat near the scanner. A thin metal card had been sewn beneath the label. Emma stared at it. "My mother put that there." The card unlocked a hidden video recorded 7 years earlier. Clara Brooks appeared on the screen, younger but unmistakable, sitting beside Luca's brother, Matteo Moretti. Luca stopped breathing. Matteo had been murdered 3 weeks after the recording. "Luca," Matteo said into the camera, "if you are seeing this, someone inside our family betrayed us. Clara found the accounts proving Salvatore Rizzo paid one of our own men." Emma covered her mouth. Her mother had always claimed she worked nights keeping books for a shipping company. Clara leaned toward the camera. "I hid the evidence where no one would search with my daughter. Emma knows nothing. Protect her from this life." The screen went black. Emma backed away as years of confusion collapsed into one terrible truth. Derek didn't date me because he loved me. He was looking for this. Luca approached slowly. "Emma." "Everyone who came near me wanted something. Derek wanted evidence. Calvin wanted someone he could control. Now Rizzo wants to use me against you." Her voice cracked, but she refused to cry in front of the guards. Maybe they were right. Maybe I am only leverage. Luca dismissed everyone with a look. When the door closed, he stepped close enough for her to feel his warmth, but did not touch her. "Look at me." She kept her eyes lowered. Luca removed the coat from her shoulders, then gently placed it around her again, covering the torn uniform beneath. "Leverage is powerless," he said. "You saw the false warrant. You saved me at the restaurant. You found evidence my men searched 7 years to uncover. You are not the weakness in this room, Emma. You are the reason the truth survived." A tear slipped down her cheek. Luca wiped it away with the uninjured side of his hand. "Your mother trusted mine to protect Matteo," he said quietly. "I failed my brother. I will not fail you." The computer suddenly activated again. A hidden folder opened, revealing security footage from the night Matteo died. Luca's face hardened when a familiar figure appeared beside Rizzo. It was not Derek. It was someone who had stood beside Luca for years, attended his brother's funeral, and helped build his empire. Before Emma could see the traitor's face clearly, the hotel lights went out. The emergency system announced a breach on the private floor. Luca reached for Emma, but the door burst open and a masked man threw a smoke device into the room. Luca fired once, then heard Emma scream his name. When the smoke cleared, the window was shattered, the flash drive was gone, and Emma had disappeared. The first thing Emma heard was Derek's voice saying, "You should have stayed invisible." Her wrists were bound to a chair inside an abandoned freight terminal on the Chicago River, where rain hammered the rusted roof and cold white lights swung above rows of empty shipping containers. Derek stood several feet away in an expensive coat Emma had never seen before, while Salvatore Rizzo watched from the shadows with 2 armed guards. Emma's blue coat still covered her shoulders, and beneath its torn lining, something sharp pressed against her palm. Luca had returned the coat to her without noticing that Clara Brooks had hidden more than one metal card inside it. "You dated me for 7 years because of my mother," Emma said. Derek smiled. "At first, then I realized how easy you were to control. A few jokes about your body, a few reminders that no one else would want you, and you stopped asking questions." The words hurt, but they no longer carried the power they once had. Emma lifted her chin. "You needed me ashamed because a confident woman would have recognized what a coward you were." Derek's smile disappeared. Rizzo stepped forward and placed the stolen flash drive on a steel table. "Where is the second key?" he asked. "The files Clara hid require 2 cards. One opened the video, the other unlocks the financial ledger." Emma kept her face calm. "My mother died without telling me anything." Rizzo nodded toward Derek, who raised his hand as if he intended to strike her. Emma did not flinch. "Touch her," a voice said from the darkness, "and you will not leave this building." Every light in the terminal went out except the one above Emma. Luca Moretti emerged between 2 containers, dressed in black, rain glistening across his shoulders. He appeared alone, exactly as Rizzo had demanded in the message sent from Emma's stolen phone. Derek moved behind Emma and pressed a gun near her shoulder. Luca's gaze fixed on the weapon, then on her face. His expression remained cold, but Emma saw the fear he refused to show anyone else. "You came alone," Rizzo said. "I came for her." "Then sign over the riverfront routes and the Moretti hotels. Your empire for one waitress." Derek laughed. "Imagine throwing away billions for a woman everyone else overlooked." Luca placed a leather folder on the floor and pushed it forward with his shoe. "The signed transfer documents." Emma stared at him. "Luca, no." He looked only at her. You are worth more than anything written on those pages." The terminal doors opened behind him. Vincent Hale entered carrying a metal case, and relief rushed through Emma until Rizzo smiled. "Right on time, Vincent." Luca did not turn, but the betrayal settled across his face like ice. Vincent had been the figure beside Rizzo in Matteo's final recording. He had attended Matteo's funeral, advised Luca for years, and traced Emma's number after the accidental text. He had also sent Rizzo her location. Vincent opened the case, revealing detonators connected to charges beneath the terminal. "At midnight," he said, "the building disappears with everyone inside. The Moretti Empire will blame Rizzo, Rizzo's people will blame Moretti, and I will inherit what remains." Luca glanced at the wall clock. 11:54. 6 minutes. Emma felt the hidden card beneath her palm and finally understood why her mother had trusted her with the evidence. Clara had not expected Emma to fight with weapons. She had expected her to notice what powerful men ignored. Emma looked at the swinging lights, the cables along the floor, and the security camera above Rizzo. A red signal blinked beside it. Someone was watching live. "You made one mistake," Emma said. Vincent looked at her. "You believed I was still ashamed enough to stay quiet." She slipped the metal card from the coat lining and sliced through the plastic binding around one wrist. Before Derek noticed, Emma drove her chair backward into his knees, his gun fired into the ceiling. Luca crossed the distance in seconds, knocking the weapon away and pulling Emma behind him. Rizzo's guards raised their guns, but the terminal doors exploded inward as Moretti security teams entered from both sides. Luca had never come alone. The transfer documents contained a tracker, and Vincent's own encrypted signal had revealed the building. Gunfire struck steel containers as Emma crawled toward the table and inserted her mother's second card into the flash drive. A financial ledger opened, showing every payment Vincent had received from Rizzo, along with recordings proving Derek had framed Emma. Emma connected the drive to the terminal's active broadcast system. The evidence began streaming to federal investigators, local reporters, and every Moretti captain watching from secure locations. "Turn it off," Vincent shouted. Emma stood behind the steel table, no longer hiding. "My name is Emma Brooks. You used it on false accounts, false warrants, and lies. Now everyone will see who it belongs to." Vincent grabbed the detonator. The clock showed 11:59. Luca moved toward him, but Rizzo fired from the shadows. Emma saw the weapon first and stepped between them. Luca pulled her aside as the shot rang out, then staggered against the table. Blood spread across his white shirt beneath his jacket. "Luca!" Emma caught him before he fell. Rizzo fled toward the river exit while Moretti guards closed in. Vincent raised the detonator and smiled, his thumb hovering over the final switch. 30 seconds remained. Luca pressed his hand over the wound and looked at Emma. "Leave me. Run." Emma took the second metal card from the computer and faced the explosive control panel across the room. Her mother's ledger showed one hidden command beside the terminal number, a shutdown code Clara had created 7 years earlier. Emma could reach it, but Vincent stood in her path. She placed Luca's hand against her cheek for one brief second, then rose. "You came for me," she said. "Now let me save us both." The countdown reached 10 as Emma stepped toward the man who had destroyed Luca's family, and Vincent pressed the detonator. But instead of an explosion, every light in the freight terminal flashed bright white. The countdown froze at 1. Emma had already slid her mother's metal card into the emergency control panel, activating the shutdown command Clara Brooks had hidden 7 years earlier. "You thought my mother only kept your records," Emma said, standing between Vincent and the wounded Luca. "She also built the system you were too arrogant to understand." Vincent pressed the switch again, but nothing happened. His confidence collapsed. Luca's guards surrounded him before he could reach for his gun, forcing him to his knees beside the evidence of his betrayal. Across the terminal, Salvatore Rizzo tried to escape through the river exit, only to find federal agents waiting outside. Emma's live broadcast had reached them before Vincent could destroy the building. Derek crawled toward his fallen weapon, but Emma stepped on it first and pushed it beyond his reach. He looked up at her with the same cruel expression that had controlled her for years. "You think Moretti really wants you?" he hissed. A man like him will get tired of pretending. Emma stared at the man who had taught her to doubt every compliment and apologize for every inch of space she occupied. This time she did not look away. "He never asked me to become smaller," she said. "You did, because you were afraid I would realize how small you were." Two agents pulled Derek to his feet and led him away. Emma immediately turned back to Luca. He was sitting against the steel table, one hand pressed to his bleeding side, his face pale but his eyes fixed on her. She dropped beside him. "You are not allowed to die after making me ruin my best coat," she said, fighting tears. Luca managed a weak smile. "I will buy you another. It belonged to my mother." "Then I will repair that one." His voice softened. "Some things should not be replaced." Paramedics rushed into the terminal and treated Luca's wound. The bullet had passed through his side without striking anything vital, but when they lifted him onto the stretcher, he refused to release Emma's hand. 3 days later, sunlight filled a private hospital room overlooking Lake Michigan. Luca woke to find Emma asleep in a chair beside his bed, still wearing the blue coat over clean clothes. On the table rested the repaired flash drive, now containing enough evidence to clear her name, expose Rizzo's network, and prove Vincent had arranged Matteo Moretti's murder. Bellini's owners publicly apologized to Emma and offered her job back. She declined. "Why?" Luca asked when she told him. Emma looked toward the morning light. "Because surviving something does not mean I have to return to it." Luca nodded with quiet approval. He offered her money, protection, and an apartment, but Emma refused anything that felt like payment for being saved. Instead, she accepted a position helping manage a new Moretti Foundation for employees facing workplace abuse and financial exploitation. It was her idea, her work, and her name on the office door. Luca protected the program, but he never controlled it. Weeks later, the Moretti Grand Hotel hosted a gathering for the Foundation's first group of clients. Emma entered the ballroom in a deep blue dress that embraced her full figure without apology. She paused when she heard whispers from several wealthy guests, old instincts urging her to pull at the fabric and disappear. Then Luca crossed the room. He did not hide her behind him. He stood beside her, took her hand in front of everyone, and waited until the whispers stopped. "Emma Brooks saved my life, exposed the men who betrayed my family, and protected people my power failed to see," he announced. "Anyone who speaks her name will do so with respect." Emma looked at him, her eyes shining. "You do enjoy silencing rooms. Only when they are saying something foolish." Music began, warm and slow. Luca offered his hand. "May I?" She smiled. "You are asking permission?" "With you always." They moved together beneath the golden lights. No danger between them now. Only the quiet understanding of two wounded people who had finally found someone safe enough to trust. Luca had spent years believing love created weakness, but Emma showed him that protection without tenderness was only another kind of prison. Emma had spent years believing she was difficult to love, but Luca never asked her to shrink, change, or earn her place beside him. Months later, he repaired her mother's coat and returned it with a small card sewn inside the lining. It contained only one sentence. "You were never too much. You were simply surrounded by people who gave too little." Emma cried when she read it, and Luca knelt before her, wiping away her tears with the same gentleness he had shown on the night an accidental message changed both their lives. 1 year later, they stood together on the hotel rooftop as Chicago glowed beneath them. Luca asked her to marry him without guards, contracts, or witnesses. Emma said yes because he had never treated her as leverage, a burden, or someone who needed rescuing. He had treated her as an equal, and it all began with 3 furious words sent to the wrong number. Or perhaps, as Luca often reminded her, the right number at exactly the right time. What would you have done if the most dangerous man in Chicago replied to your accidental message? Share your answer below. And subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories of danger, courage, healing, and unexpected love.